The landslide of Goldau only lasted for 3 to 5 minutes, but has taken the lives of approximately 450 people living in Goldau, Bosingen and Lauwerz. It has destroyed over 100 houses and 200 barns. The people had no chance to survive. The landslide of 1806 was not the first and the last on the Rossberg. It is assumed that there was a prehistoric landslide that was even larger, and future debris flow will occur, such as in 2005. I wanted to know how the landscape looks like 200 years after, so I took a short hike to follow the Bergsturz Spur. Goldau and Art lie in the valley between the Rossberg and the famous Mount Rigi, the queen of the mountains. Not everyone died being crushed by the rocks and debris. The landslide of 1806 reached the Lauwerzer See, causing huge flood waves. Kaplan Ott said, "An Dettling hörte da ein Getöse, sah von der Stube aus dem Ereignis zu, erkannte aber gleich die Gefahr und flüchtete mit den Seinigen auf eine Anhöhe. Ehe aber die Rettung geschehen konnte, stürzte das Wasser mit Wut auf das Haus und prallte mit Gewalt an steilen Hügel an." But what happened exactly 200 years ago? All we know is from Dr. Zeiss' famous Schuttbuch, which collected all experiences and reports from the landslide. Today we still don't know how it exactly happened. However, the primary cause can be found in geology. During Ice Age, the Reuss Glacier eroded rock layers in the valley, reducing the natural resistance of the upper rock layers, consisting mostly of conglomerates. Over the course of decades, water from precipitation softened the underlying marl layers. These cracks have been reported in advance, but almost no one interpreted these signs correctly. And so on the 2nd of September 1806, the hillside failed, coinciding with heavy rainfall, and approximately 40 million cubic meters in volume fell onto an area of 6.5 square kilometers. It is estimated that the area of the Lauwerzer See was reduced by a quarter. One can see where the rock layers failed on the Kniepenspitze. The course of the landslide is still recognizable as the scar stands out in the landscape. The layers are angled at 15 to 30 degrees, which is said to be a major factor during the landslide. At some breaking points, the height reaches up to 80 meters, revealing the geology of the rock layers. The intermediate layers of Nagelfluh are relatively hard and resistant to erosion. They form the stair-like landscape, which is particularly seen on the opposite Rigi. 30 years before the landslide, there were already characteristic signs such as cracks in the ground and sounds of tearing roots. Even though everyone knew the mountain will collapse, only 5 people moved away from the dangerous area. For many, the landslide came with a surprise, and the survivors were left with devastation. Pater Isidor Moser preached a sermon to the landslide, telling that the landslide is a punishment from God and the dead had done something wrong. They were looking for a merciful God. However, scholars had a different opinion and explained the landslide from natural causes. It was the first time that a natural catastrophe was not directly attributed to the Christian God, at least among scholars. Nevertheless, comfort was found in God, as the survivors did not want to realize that the signs of an immediate danger were clear. The question of responsibility, however, was never resolved. The landslide occurred during a time of national and political distress. It was the first fundraising campaign in Switzerland, from the cantons forming a chance to increase national solidarity. Furthermore, it was never expected that there will be any people coming back to live there. It was not until some decades later when resettlement of Goldau began for building a rail traffic hub. In the last 200 years, nature has remarkably recaptured the landslide terrain. The Goldau landslide is known for its fast rebuilding of vegetation after a new debris flow, due to its strong shredding of rock components and water holding capacities. The heterogeneous area leads to many smaller habitats for vegetation and is therefore called a metastable ecological system with a large biodiversity. The vegetation still indicates traces of the landslide and are adapted to its environment. This makes the area of the Goldau landslide unique with its dispersed rock conglomerates, where it is used as pastures for farmers today. Not only the flora, but also the fauna has found a way to live, such as lizards. The whole area has been declared a natural protection zone. The nature and animal park of Goldau, in midst of huge rocks of the landslide, remains as an attractive destination. Back then, there was no film or photography to capture information of a landslide, as for example recently in Bondo. How dangerous is the Rossberg today? The threat is omnipresent in Switzerland. Geologists estimated that the Rossberg is in a continuous lifting, which can lead to a mass imbalance. Such destructive landslides that happen in Goldau are quite improbable. There is extensive monitoring of such problematic mountains, and the threats are taken much more serious. Nevertheless, increasing uncertainties of climate change and sudden events such as earthquakes still poses a risk with no predictions. The bodies of the victims were never retrieved and still remain on the grounds of Goldau. Only until recently, the University of Zurich were able to attribute 3 skeletons to be the victims of the Goldau landslide in 1806. The Goldau landslide was truly a unique and memorable landslide. It was the first landslide to be coped as a nation, but also the first to be scientifically investigated. Even with today's monitoring and tremendous efforts, nature may still overpower humans in a possible future landslide in Goldau.